Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the February edition of the California 4-H Association's webinar series for professional development. And welcome. And this morning we have Kendra Lewis from the state office talking about let's not do one more survey and still get the information that we need from our members and our volunteers in both formative and summative evaluations. So Kendra, I'm recording this and it's all yours.
Okay, thanks, Gemma. So let me make sure I can get my PowerPoint up and running. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. Do you see the note version or the other version?
We see the note version.
Okay.
No, I don't see any notes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
you see the presenter version? The presenter version.
That's what I mean, the presenter version. Yeah.
I think we see the one we're supposed to see. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Oh, I saw the presenter version. That's interesting. Maybe, I wonder if it's because I'm the host?
I don't know.
Oh, no, we do see. Yeah, on the right-hand side, it says next slide, no notes.
Yeah. Let me share my other screen. That's what I'm going to do. There you go. Do you see the regular version now?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're
Yeah.
good now.
Okay, so it's because the presenter version came up on my first screen and I was sharing that one, so now I'm sharing my second screen. So, okay, so I am going to talk a little bit today about different ways to collect surveys. I'll be honest, I haven't used many of these, but they're just different techniques that I've seen through going to different conferences. And so hopefully some of these would be fun to do. And if you have any ideas or if this conversation sparks any ideas, please share them, because we put in a proposal to do a session like this at NAE 4HA this year, which I'm hoping gets accepted, but then we would love to hear some more ideas. So, whoops, let's see if I can, come on, there we go. Okay, so the objective is just to talk about some fun and engaging ways to collect some program improvement data, although some of this we can do for program outcomes as well, and so we'll talk about that. And so just a reminder, what we're really focusing on today is this formative data. So this is when the chef tastes the soup versus summative data when the guest tastes the soup. So we're talking about what we can do, what we can control about making the program better and how to improve the program. And that's what a lot of these things will cover. So some common questions that we tend to have for youth is, you know, what did you like about the program? What would you change? And did you have fun? And those are sort of things that we want to know. Sometimes we also want to know some other information, like, well, what worked well and what didn't work well? And what did you actually do? You know, if there's a certain curriculum or a lesson plan, did you actually follow that? Because if you didn't follow that, that might play a role in what youth liked or what they didn't like or why something didn't work. And you might want to know, you know, what did the youth actually learn? What did they get out of the program? So those are some other kinds of questions we can ask. So we'll look at some different ways. So to start, I'm sure most people are really familiar with this. It's the plus delta sheet. So I'm going to give props to Stephen because he and another group of people designed this one. And so I've seen this done at several meetings, and I think that this is something that can be done at large events as well. You can have a giant piece of flip chart paper or butcher paper or something up and really just write, well, what worked well and what didn't work well, and talk about that with the youth. Some other ideas are to do some journaling or presentations or a blog. So for those of you that are familiar with the iThrive curriculum, there was journaling built into that. So that was one way. And we never did this, but one of the things we could have done is asked to collect the books back and go through those and see what the youth were writing and really get a sense of what they were learning and how they were reflecting on their experience. If you do journals, then you can also give some kind of prompts related to the program goals at the beginning of the program and then have them talk about those again at the end. So then you can see, you know, how are they talking differently about that experience, or do you see any change as a result of them going through the program? For presentations, one example we have is this Teen Battle Chef. This was part of one of our SciFar grants. The youth went through the Teen Battle Chef program, and then they wanted to share their experiences with their parents and with their board of supervisors. So they created a presentation that was all about what they had learned in the program. And then they had this poem where they had to kind of fill in the blank and design a poem about their experience, and so then they presented that as well. And then I've seen a lot of different programs that create a blog for their youth, and so youth will take turns posting about their experience. So again, you can give them some prompts about, you know, in what ways are you a leader, or you know, what have you learned from this program, from this experience, and give them the opportunity to share that in a blog. Some other ways are through interviews and focus groups. These are a little bit more intensive, but it does get some really great information. So we did this with the Thrive program. We interviewed some youth and asked them, you know, what did you enjoy most about the program? What aspects of the program could be improved upon in the future? And what would you tell other young people about Thrive? So we got some good information. You know, I would tell them to participate in it because it's fun. We had the opportunity to learn things in this project that they can't, and they're probably not going to learn them until they get into college. This one I really spoke to. They could tell that we took into account their suggestions from the previous year and made them in the following year, so that, you know, we were actually listening to their voice and listening to their suggestions about the program. And this one, I would tell other youth that they should join the project and they should come to it with an open mind, just interact with others, and you'll automatically get something from it. Everyone can get anything from it. So interviews and focus groups are a great way to get some really in-depth information about programs and about youth experiences. We had also done with Thrive these postcards to help us know, well, what are people actually doing? Because this can help us learn if we see that a program isn't working, we might find it's because nobody's doing the lessons the way that they're supposed to be done. And so we had project leaders send these back into us after they let us know, you know, who was there, what lesson were you teaching, what was the setting that it was delivered in, and what parts did you actually do? Did you do it during the meeting? Did you do some of it at home? Did you completely skip it? You know, what was changed, if anything. So this was really helpful for us in looking at different patterns and seeing if there was something going on that wasn't quite working. And I think one thing we saw was that one lesson was pretty long, and rather than breaking it up into 2 lessons, most people were leaving it as one very long lesson, but then they were skipping parts or modifying a lot of parts. And so we went back and suggested this really needs to be broken up into 2 lessons for it to be the most effective. So there could be some other ways to use something like this to get some information about what people are actually doing. Another cool idea that I have not done yet, but I've heard quite a bit about, is this photo voice. And I think that the Center for Regional Change did this when they were doing some of the putting youth on the map work. I'm not sure. But this uses photography for expression. So youth are given, you know, a couple clear prompts about what to take photos of. So some youth might go around and say, you know, what is a change that you want to see in your community? And then they can go around and they take photos that represent that prompt to them. And then you can have time for the youth to really reflect on those photos and the photos that other people have taken. So you might want to have some way to either print them out or share them digitally so that they can look at them. Or if you're going to do the reflection time at a later time, then to just make sure you print them out so everybody can see them. And give them that time to really reflect on the photos and the photos of others. And I've seen these mostly in blogs that people share the results of that. So you can create a photo gallery or put them into a presentation or some kind of blog and say, you know, these are all the photos that the youth took and these are the things that they were saying. Or you can ask the youth to help write that and write a little bit of a report about their experience. And so down here at the bottom, I have a link from the American Evaluation Association where somebody gives a little bit more information about how they used Photo Voice in their planning process, and they give some resources there. I have no idea what this is called, so I called it the Evaluation Dude. I've seen this a couple different places, but I really liked it. So we used this for the camping conference this year. So there's a circle, a heart, and some feet. And so in the head, you have everybody write what did they learn. In the heart, they write how did they feel. And then the feet are their action steps, or what's their plan? What are they going to do moving forward? So at the camping conference, what we did was we had each camp work on this together. And so then they wrote all the things they learned at the camping conference, how they felt at the camping conference, which really helps the planners of the conference know, did they help it? Did people feel like they were welcome? Did they feel like that it was worth their time? And then the camps made action steps. They said, you know, they set goals for what they were going to do next. And so we made copies of all of them or took photos of them so that we could see them as well. But then everybody took theirs home so that they could have it as a reminder. So I really like this this little guy as a way to get more information about what people got out of your program. I haven't done the candy surveys either, and our healthy living people might want to find some other thing to use besides candy. But the trick with this one is if you're asking kind of like survey type questions, but especially with younger youth, it's really hard to have them do a survey. You can give them a bunch of different colors that represent different responses. So this photo is a little hard to read, but a pink starburst meant a strong yes, yellow meant yes. Red meant maybe, I'm kind of indifferent, and orange meant no. And so you can do different things. You can ask them questions and ask, you know, maybe have questions lined up on a wall or something and have a cup underneath. And, you know, there might be a question, did you like this program? Put whatever starburst, you know, goes with their answer into a cup. And then you can later count how many kids said, you know, how many kids put in a pink starburst, how many put in a red, how many put in an orange. And so you can do, there's a couple different variations you can do with that. And again, there's a link down here where they talk a little bit more about it. And one of their big tips was to make sure to use wrapped candy so that people aren't touching, you know, just not spreading germs. And so that's why they suggested using Starburst. And if you want to give them a treat, you can tally the results really quick so that they can eat their candy when they're done. Four corners is a little bit of a variation of that. It's the same kind of idea. Each corner represents a response option. So let's say blue is strongly agree, red might be agree, orange is disagree, and green is strongly disagree. And so you ask a question and then ask the youth to go to whatever corner represents their answer. And then you would want to quickly tally up how many youth went to what corner. And so you can do that, and then you can also ask them, well, why did you go to that corner? You know, say a little bit why they're standing where they are. And so then you can get a little bit more information about why some of the kids strongly agree or why they might strongly disagree. And I've also seen this done in a line rather than in corners. You can just have, you know, one end of the wall is strongly agree, while the other end is strongly disagree, or whatever your response options are. So rather than going to corners, they just form a line. And so in that case, you might want to have some signs up that have that indicating. And then this is just a like a sample table this is from the University of Wisconsin Extension. They have a lot of really cool ideas, so I tried not to recreate everything that they did. So you would want to have some sort of table like this ready for yourself. If you do either the starburst or do the four corners or do the line, you want to make sure that you can quickly count and write down how many people went to whichever space. I've seen this one at a conference before. It was a lot of fun. So image sorting, what their example was that they went to, there was a museum that was wanting to create new galleries, but they didn't know what to focus on. And so after people went through the museum, they asked a couple of them to take images from the existing galleries and sort them into what they liked, what they didn't like, and what they could kind of take or leave. And after everybody sorted, they talked to the people about what they liked and asked them, well, why didn't you like this one, to get a better idea of what they were looking for. And so then they had a recording sheet to mark which ones that everybody said that they liked. And so this was really a fun and engaging way to ask people what they wanted to see, what they really enjoyed about the museum. And so they were able to get more ideas about, well, why are people coming to the museum? What are they wanting to see? What can we do? So you might want to do something like this about the program, have different pictures representing whatever program or event that you're doing, and ask kids, what parts did you like? What parts didn't you like? And maybe get some information about why. And then you can know, well, if there's a lot of kids liking a certain event, a certain activity, that you would want to keep doing that, but then there might be other activities that a lot of kids are saying that they didn't like or didn't enjoy. So this card sort is a very similar idea to that. So having explanations about program outcomes on cards, and make a set of cards for each participant. And then you can write different rating scales and baskets and ask them to sort those descriptions into the different baskets. And you can either do that by themselves or they can do it in small groups. And again, using images might be a better way to do that to help with younger kids. So action cards are another way to get participants to really record their steps, their actions, their accomplishments that they have through the program. And so then they would just write a little bit on each card, very short, just a few words or sentences. And so then you can look at those later and see the progress that youth are making throughout a project, or maybe just do it at the end to look at it to see, well, what are you feeling that they got out of the program. Young children like stickers, and so this one you might you could do like a board or something with stickers, or have this example says to have a cup with, you know, I learned a lot, I learned a little, or I didn't learn anything, or whatever response options for your questions. And then you ask them to take a sticker from the cup that best fits their answer, or you can have a board where they can go put their sticker up to match their response to the questions. So then they get a fun sticker, they get to play with the stickers, and you can get some data that way. Okay. So again, University of Wisconsin has a lot of ideas. They had a PowerPoint that I took quite a few of these from, and there's the link to the PowerPoint. They do some more detail about some of these. But another idea is to have youth create tweets about a program or a project. For this, you would just want to make sure that you create a hashtag and ask youth to use that hashtag so you can find them all later. But it's a great way to get them to write a really short snippet about the program that you can use later. I've seen time capsules used. So representing the special parts about the project, and so you can, you know, put in whatever they want to represent their experience in the program. Skits, I think I'll do skits, drawings, and videos are all kind of go together. So having some sort of way for them to act out what they've learned or what they liked. I've actually seen this done also as an evaluation project. There were youth engaged in doing evaluation of a program, and so they created a skit all about that process, about how they learned the evaluation process and how they went through doing the evaluation and the results of that. So creating a skit or doing some sort of drawing or videos about their experience is another fun way to get information. Storyboards and collages as well, so they can create those together, or they can do them individually, and then you can also take photos, put them on Instagram, do the same hashtag kind of type thing as well. And let's see. I'm going to put a plug-in about program quality. Another way to get that information is with a tool that I've been working on with Gemma. And so the goal of it is to assess the quality of our programming, and really, are we providing our youth with safe, welcoming, engaging environments, because that's really at the core of the programming. If we're not doing that, then they're not going to be able to learn anything. And also to give volunteers the opportunity to set goals and make action plans for improving 4-H programming. And so this contains, questions about safety, relationship building, youth engagement, involvement. We originally had it in 2 different sections, but we put it in one. So I apologize, action plans on there twice, but there's really just one action plan. But we also cover skill building, the actual content of the programming and teaching methods. So that's coming out soon. We're going to have it out in the next few months, and we're looking for anybody who's willing to be a part of pilot testing that, who wants to use this measure. So it'll be in project meetings and after school programs. We'll also do some observations here locally in places around the state office. But other than that, it'll be a self-assessment by the volunteers, or if there's another volunteer who's willing to go observe some project leaders in their counties, and they can do that as well. And we're going to get some youth perspectives about program quality. And so we're going to implement that into ORB in May, so we can ask the youth what they think the program quality is in 4-H, and then we'll also have the volunteers giving their perspective by using the tool as well. So that's another way to get some information. So I was asked by somebody as I was putting this together to make sure to talk about large events, because this is common in the counties about places having to collect data. And so sometimes the survey might be the easiest thing to do. But if you want to avoid that at all costs, I completely understand. So some different ideas might be the evaluation dude, I think, could really be, printed out largely. And you can put either one big one up that everybody writes on, or you could put several up in different locations, or if you have different activities going on, you can put one up for each activity and, rotate them out. But that's something that could be put up. The plus delta sheet could easily be blown up really largely and put up around in the same way. Again, also the large signs with the stickers or the candy surveys, those can be done. Everybody can be given, either a set of stickers or candy or whatever, and you can put up the questions with response options and ask them, at each station, we're going to have a place for you to put in your response. Make sure to put in pink if you disagree and red if you agree, or whatever, something like that. So I think several of these could be modified to be done at a large event if that's the way that you want to go. And if you have questions about that, about how that might look, please feel free to ask me, and we can talk about it, figure out something that would work. So I totally just breezed through that, and I hope that I didn't lose anybody. But does anybody have any questions or any ideas that they want to share?
So I have a question.
Yeah.
A lot of really good, innovative new ideas. I'm wondering, could you talk a little bit about how one would go about selecting one or more of these to use? What criteria would you recommend for picking out of this, toolbox of ideas?
Right. I think that you really want to think about what you want to start with, what your question is, what it is that you really want to know, and then go through them and think about which of these would best fit that. So, like the Candy surveys type 1 or the 4 corners or Align, those are going to be pretty good if you want to know something that's more traditionally collected from a survey, right? You're not going to do a tweet is not going to work if you want to ask them a survey type question. That's not the most effective way. So start with what it is that you want to ask, and then maybe go through this kind of list of ideas and think about, is this going to give me the type of response that I want? Is this actually going to give me, is this going to give me the best information? If you want to know what are people learning and what are they making plans, the evaluation dude is going to work for that, because they talk about, well, what did I learn and what are my plans moving forward? A 4 corners activity is not going to work for that unless you're asking them, what did I learn? But then you have to solicit answers from them. You can't say, well, what did you learn? And their responses agree. That doesn't work. For evaluation, always start with your question. Always start with, what do I want to know? What is it that I'm interested in knowing? And that's really going to help you figure out the best way to collect that data. And as always, you can ask me too if you don't know. Now I can go through these with you.
So I had another question. So you've put a lot of work into assembling this group of new evaluation sort of techniques. Do you have like a matrix that lists out these and some of their properties or whatnot?
No, I don't, because I haven't put anything like this together yet, but that's a good idea for a resource. So I'm going to write that down. Sorry.
And then my other question, which is a little bit of humor added in, but for those of us that had to turn in our AEs and PR packets yesterday,
yeah,
which ones of these would you recommend that we could use for sort of demonstrating our outcomes and impacts?
Yeah. So these are not as well designed for outcomes and impacts, right? But I think that some of them do lend themselves to that you can't, if you're talking about, are you talking about the outcomes that the youth get from the program?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say you could, I would do like the 4 corners or Align, because it's more active, it's more engaging, it's not a survey. So you do have to preface it with that it's not going to have the same rigor as a survey, right? It's not totally anonymous. The kids are going to see who's running to what corner, and they might go with their friends. So there's going to be some issues with that. But if a survey is really not the most, if it's just not going to work for your setting, then you do what you have to do. And I would try using some ideas like that, where you can ask survey-like questions and get the youth to respond in those kinds of ways, and say, okay, well, 90% agreed that they enjoyed the program. And of course, you might have some kids who say they agree because all their friends said they agree, but in the real world, we have to do what we can. So I think some of these you can try and do some sort of outcome type evaluation with that. I think the interviews and focus groups really lend themselves to that as well. So you can, with interviews and talking to them, or anything where you can get them to talk about their experience in the program, that there you can talk about the outcomes and the impacts of the program, definitely, because you have the opportunity to really structure those questions to solicit that feedback. Yeah.
So can I do just a little housekeeping thing here? So
Yeah.
I've muted everyone because there's some background noise from a few people. So if you have a question and there are other people in your room that are talking wherever you are, just go ahead and use the chat pod, which is at the bottom of your screen, and chat your questions. But if you're on your own, go ahead, feel free to unmute yourself and then ask Kendra what your question is. Thanks.
Kendra, you mentioned that there's a pilot instrument you're going to pilot soon.
Yeah.
And we can participate if we want.
Yeah.
Would we get the raw data from that, or would we get aggregated data? Okay.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So you can send everything up to me and then we'll get it turned back to you. And so you would get the raw data. And ideally, if we can get enough of an observation or we can get enough of the youth data that are within a particular project or within a particular club, then we can do some kind of comparison and say, well, this is what the adults are saying in terms of their observations on program quality, and this is what the youth are saying. So we can definitely share the youth data with you as well if you're interested. But,
Okay, and
yes,
is
you'll
this
get
something we would administer, or is this something the state would come down and help administer?
So for the youth or the adult one?
I'm mainly interested in the youth one. Yeah.
The adult one, it's going to be a self-assessment. It's going to be that the volunteers just do it on themselves. So they just rate themselves unless they agree with another volunteer to maybe do observations on one another. The youth one is going to be online, so the youth can just take it in through the online record book.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to do a couple observations this year at the state just to make sure that it's working. But other than that, it's not really feasible for us to travel the state and do that, and because we want everybody to be doing it ideally.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we designed it to be more of as a self-assessment rather than an observation, which is typical of program quality tools, is that they're usually observations, but because we want it to be used on a large scale, it wasn't feasible for us to keep it in that format.
Okay, I'm really interested in participating. I'm just in the needs assessment stage, which is supposed to inform everything else I do. And so I'm hesitant because I'm not really ready to start gauging program quality.
Right.
Although you could argue that will inform your needs assessment.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little different. For me, you do the needs assessment first, and then you start going into other types of program evaluation.
Right.
And I don't want people to be over-surveyed, over-observed, over-focus grouped. So those are my reservations.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I'm doing surveys and observations and focus groups for the needs assessment.
Right. Yeah. No, and it might not be the right time for it to be like totally rolled out in your area because you are doing the needs assessments and whatnot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm happy to share it with you so you could take a look at it and then decide if you want to do that. Mm-hmm. So I have I have quite a few links up here from other ideas about finding creative ways to evaluate youth. These were more not necessarily around formative data. Some of them are just creative ways to either engage youth in evaluation, or some of them are about working in surveying really young kids and some tips on that. So they were just some other ideas I found. And some of them, I've incorporated most of them into here, but in case you want just a little bit more information or have some questions, these are some really great links to go to as well. Any other questions or any other ideas? Dorina, are you talking? Is it just me or does it sound like mousy? Okay. You sound like a little mouse, Dorina, that I can't understand.
You gotta knock off that helium.
It's exactly what it sounds like.
Too funny.
Oh, and then she's gone.
Oh no, come back.
She got too excited from turning in her annual evals last night. It was a crazy night.
I can't believe I had like 18 messages. I was like, wow, we are excited. Dorina, hopefully you come back.
Yeah, she's gone, so I don't know what.
Oh.
Maybe she lost the whole connection, which is why she sounded.
Maybe.
Or maybe she's trying to reset her Zoom.
How do I
Oh, there
sound?
she is. Oh, there you go.
Dorina.
Do I sound better?
Yes.
Phew. That was pretty funny comment, Stephen.
It was great.
So I have a few experiences to share because we're talking about evaluation.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned the four corners of the line continuum, depending on the questions, that can be a really vulnerable experience, as I've experienced it, both working effectively because of the questions that were asked, and I've experienced it with being very uncomfortable with having to state my position. So I stick myself in the middle, but that isn't actually my response to the question. But I wasn't willing to reveal my response to the question in such a public way. So just kind of that thought, and really be mindful of the questions we're asking.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I have to say, Kendra, we can't use starbursts.
I know. I said you should probably pick something healthier.
You can use broccoli instead. And
ooh, I love broccoli. Give me
carrots, broccoli,
carrots,
oranges, and bananas,
cherry tomatoes.
Cherry tomatoes.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
I think that would be fun too. I mean, I think that in that way, you probably can't give them a treat you can't ask them, oh, hey, you can eat it afterward because you're going to put them in a cup. But I still think it's fun. They're playing with food. I don't think they're going to care if it's candy versus a vegetable. I think it's still going to be fun. So I would still encourage a healthy snack as well. I agree, Dorina.
And Shanna comments that they use marbles. You could do marbles of different colors.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Photo Voice in Humboldt County has been used quite extensively.
Oh, awesome.
And not by me, but by Public Health when I was with Public Health. And they actually use it as a way for the youth in a certain community to identify some of the challenges that they experience, especially in response to an elected official diminishing the experiences of youth. And so then they've taken those Photo Voice, they actually create these storyboards with their photo and their story behind their photo, and they present it at Board of Supervisors meetings, city council meetings, and then they present it. We have these monthly events here in the community where the community comes out during the evening. So those are really powerful kinds of ways used differently than what you shared, but could be used in 4-H, I think, in youth development, depending on where we're going in some of our communities.
The example that we talked about in the session I went on, it was really powerful for me, was that the youth were asked to they were at a school, and they were asked to take photos of where they felt unsafe at school. And so young children, it was a school that had a lot of grades, I think kindergarten to 8th grade. And so the younger kids took photos of a door right by their classroom. And it's because it was a door that the older kids always came through to go through to certain activities. And so the young kids didn't feel safe there because there were always these older kids. And so then the school said, okay, we need to find a way to, get the older youth to go and not always be so close to the younger youth. And then there was another part of the school that was, I think it was near a bathroom that was very poorly lit often or something like that. There was a light that was always broken or something like that. And so it was a way for the school to realize things that they were overlooking about the experience for the students. And so then they were able to make changes to the school to help the youth feel more safe. So the youth went and took pictures, and then they just printed them out and talked about it with the staff or whoever was running this. And then I think they asked them to repeat the process a little while later after they had made some improvements so that they could see, are they still feeling unsafe in that place? And ideally they weren't, because the school had made the changes. So I really like the idea of Photo Voice, and I'm hoping to find a way to use it, because I think it's a really powerful opportunity. Yeah.
And then last is, right now I'm on the search committee for the extension specialist, evaluation specialist. And a candidate presented group mapping. And it's I don't know a lot about it, I just saw it, but it's a question-driven exercise of a a piece of paper, a large piece of paper that the whole group contributes to over consecutive days or hours, whichever is the time frame of the experience. And it continually evolves and morphs into something that is an initial response to something, and then how that changes over time, which may or may not be the same response 2 days later or 2 hours later. But I found that really interesting. Again, I don't know a lot about it, but something that a candidate presented. So.
Cool, thank you. Great. Any other ideas? Thanks for sharing, Dorina.
And Tara wrote in the chat pod, added to Dorina's comments about and community mapping and then SWOT analysis of communities too.
Yeah. Well, hopefully these give you some ideas of maybe some creative ways to get some data from your youth or your adults, either way. And if you have if you come across any really cool ideas that you want to share, let me know. I like Stephen's idea of putting together something a little more formal that I can put up online to give you some ideas about these activities, maybe what the pluses and negatives are to each of them, and maybe some places to go for examples or for other resources. The American Evaluation Association is fantastic. They have tons of responses or tons of ideas, and as you'll see, a lot of these are coming from AEA365.org, and so every single day they have a very short, like 500-word little post that goes out about something, and so that's where I get a lot of my ideas from. As I look at those, I don't look at it every day. I usually do a week at a time, but I look through and get some new ideas about things. And so they're great because they're so short, and they just link you to all the best resources on different ideas. So I do recommend them as well as a resource.
Great. Okay, seeing no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and just close us up here. Kendra, thank you so much for doing yet another webinar for us. That was a great bit of information. I hope we can continue this conversation. It'll be fun to see what other things people do and report back on their successes with using alternative evaluation strategies. So that'd be great. And then thank all of you for coming this morning. Next month, our presentation is on culturally relevant programming presented by Karina Rios Diaz, who's a UCNR specialist. And she's going to be exploring concepts to consider when communicating with culturally diverse audiences and strategies to develop cultural competency. So right in line with our work with IDI. And then we're going to finish with our little poll, our one-question poll. So if you can, hopefully you all see that and respond. Do you guys see results on your screen like I do? No? Okay. We're still learning some of the nuances of, okay. Got about 10 people responded. I know a couple people are on the phone call, so can't respond. Okay, I'll give you 15 more seconds. All right, just so you all know, so very likely was 67%, slightly likely 25%, and maybe 8%, but no of the unlikely, so that's good. All right, great. So thank you, and have a great rest of your day and weekend.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Yep, bye.